Buddy the dog. What are you doing, my pal? You ready to see a tractor run today, maybe? And drive? Yeah. Keep up the excitement. We'll get started right after this. Alright, welcome back. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm Rouse the Oliver Man. And in our last video, we tore stuff down. And then it got too dark because it took longer than I anticipated it would. But I know what the problem is, and I'm quite frankly kind of surprised because I didn't see that one coming. But it's good for us because it means that I have all of the stuff that we need to put it back together, hopefully. So let's recap. 77 from Ohio, from viewer Craig. Consequently, I talked to him on the phone last night and I got even more history of this tractor. This tractor was not in this good a shape ever. He found it in an abandoned building on a farm that he was tearing down because he does excavation and things. And he was hired by an estate or some family members to clean up this farm and knock down all these old buildings. And in one of the buildings was this tractor. It was sunk down in the mud, no rear wheels, because the family had taken the rear wheels and centers and everything and used them as duals on a 1550. And he said it was sunk down in the ground far enough that all he could see out of the top of the front end was the rubber. And he said when he pulled it up out of there, most of the rim stayed behind and the only thing left was front hubs, and they didn't turn, and it was a mess. And he said it's still, he hasn't washed it or anything. I mean, it's just like it was here. The original grease and things and the straw and stuff is from it being buried in the barn probably. So he bought a parts tractor, and I guess I should also say the sheet metal was not this sheet metal. This tractor's sheet metal, he said you could stick your hand through the hood in the rust holes and things. So he got a parts tractor, which is where he got those rear wheel centers. He bought new rims for him. He bought new rims for the front, and he changed all the sheet metal from one to the other. And there you have it. He said that motor ran good. He said that was what surprised him and made him continue the project. Was he tinkered with the engine. It hadn't run since the 80s, and he got it fired up and it ran great. So he used it for a couple years to plant soybeans with, I think he said. And then the tractor just sat in the back of his shop, and then here, you know, the last year or so, I'd say they meant like the last 2 years, I don't know. But so this was not very long ago that this all happened. I mean, in the last 5-6 years probably. But then the last year or so, it just sat in the corner of his shop, probably since he came out here the first time, because he asked for that distributor clip and I gave him one. And anyway, he found it back in the cup holder of his pickup the other day, so he said he'd send that back along sometime, but that's no problem. But anyway, this tractor is really made out of 2 tractors, but it's really in good shape. And he said the motor's not been apart. He didn't do anything to that. So now, what did I find? Well, I lifted it up out of here enough that I could wiggle that bell housing off, and I expected to just have pieces of clutch falling out at me when I took the pressure plate off, and that is not what I found. I pulled out an almost pristine clutch disc that I have no, like, I'm gonna reuse this. There's nothing about this clutch disc that I think is bad. I mean, the dampener springs, that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, I expected to see this all twisted out of there and the springs busted and bad, but that's really not a bad looking clutch disc, to be honest with you. So what happened? Well, What happened was, this is the most carnage right here. A bad pilot bushing, but I don't think that's what caused the problem. I think what caused the problem was the way the last guy put it together. I suspect that what happened was he did not have this fully seated in there, and then as you can see where it was riding just on the edge of those splines, probably the whole time Craig was using it. And then I think what happened was, during the old tractor pull, either the vibration finally got the best of it, or perhaps this clutch flexed enough in some way or another that it let it just slide the rest of the way back and pop. It's done. And so now it's just spinning around in there doing nothing. And I'm not exactly sure why the pilot bushing failed, other than that maybe when it was in there they drove it in crooked, and the whole time it was in the tractor it was eating away at it or something. But I don't see anything there. Like, we'll find out when we bolt this back on to make sure the pressure plate's fine, but I see nothing wrong other than this hub. And I don't think the hub is even bad. I think it's just the pilot bushing. And I think you could probably get another one and go again, but that would take a while. And why do that when I got this? So we're just going to swap one for the other. But this should, and we're going to test that right now. We want to make sure that our input shaft is nice and tight in there. Uh-oh. Yeah, I think that's acceptable. I think it's got a little bit of wiggle to it, but not really. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I think that will be fine. You don't want it super duper tight, otherwise you'll have more problems like what we had. But I think that's all. That was the only trouble. I want to take this loose and pull it back because I can't physically do that, which makes me think that they clamped it too far. But you'll know here in a second, because it'll only take a second. All right, well, we just got to make sure that this is easy to slide, and then it's got to get into that bolt's got to get captured in that groove, and then you know everything is aligned correctly. And obviously they did not do that, and that's where the trouble came to be. So what's next? Well, we're gonna have to take all of those bolts out and try to get that hub off of there, and it may not come off until we get the flywheel off, which I really didn't want to do, but we're gonna do what we got to do here. See there again, this would be the kind of thing, should we wait and get parts and change the rear main seal and all that? I don't think so. I think let's just get it running and driving. If we got to tear it down again later, that's more content for you. So that's kind of what I think. Plus, we don't really have time right now to deal with this. It would be better to have it running and driving so we can move it around. And now I'm going to do a no-no thing. Can you predict what the no-no thing is that I'm about to do? I do not recommend using an impact on the bolts into the crankshaft, but I'm going to use one to get it loose. Apparently my impact is about dead too. Yeah, the moral of my story is don't ever use the impact to put those in, because you will have sadness more than likely before you're done. Alright. Now, what would be the chance that if I just tapped on this, I could get it to pop loose? Probably not very much. Can't really see what's happening, so. Ooh. Yeah, it's probably gonna have to be where I take the flywheel off and tap it out from the back side. But I thought maybe it'd be nice if I could just get it to play ball, kind of walk it out of there, but it don't seem like it's going to do that thing. So that's fine. That's fine. This might benefit from a little bit of the old Fiat flywheel resurfacing tool. Well, the flywheel's loose. It's gonna make me work for it, go back and forth until finally it slams down in the frame. That seems about right. It's on the dowel pins coming off. There we go. Consequently, prepare yourself, because this is a pretty stout chunk of metal. All right, are you there? Somehow you went down to 39% battery, but we're just gonna. This is kind of chewed up here. Maybe that's just trash. Let's get the hub out first. It's that easy. It is just trash. All right, we need to probably clean this up ever so slightly. See, I really want to just, it makes me want to change that rear main seal to the new kind, but that may not be today's project, you know. I don't have the parts on hand for that, and we could always do that later. I don't know. What do you want to do? Yell it out now. Well, probably take a minute and think. I don't want this sitting here in pieces forever, and I don't want to even do it while I'm waiting on stuff. It's not that hard to pull the motor out of one of these. I can do it again sometime, and we can decide if it even needs to have that done. It may not leak that bad, you know, for no more than we'll use it. So I think I want to clean up though in the frame and things whilst we have it down this far, and I'll probably clean up the back of the block. But I'm thinking, and I might be wrong on that because thinking gets you every time, but I'm thinking that we saved it just in time. Like, this hub might very well be usable again. Then again, maybe not. No, it's not. It's not. That is actually cut into, I don't think that's the bushing. I think that is actually cut into the housing and it's rolled over. Because look at the difference in thickness of this versus that. I'm not saying that you couldn't bore this out and put in a what am I trying to say? Put in a different custom bushing, but I think that for me, I would just go with what, yeah, I think that it's not worth pursuing. We're just going to swap it out. That's what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, let me clean up some of this area on this tractor, and then in a little bit we'll get to where we're going to start thinking about putting her back together again. All right, so one thing leads to another. I got this area kind of clean, and then I thought, you know, while I'm here, I want to change that steering shaft if I can. I think I got another one. So then I might as well lift it up so I can get to it easy, and then I might as well just clean this all out. So that's what we're going to do. It's sitting on here, hanging from the engine hoist, and also resting part of its weight on the frame, so hopefully it'll be able to hang out there just fine. But I'm going to try to clean the rest of this up. I might go grab that steering shaft and make sure I really got one, but I think I do. And the only reason I'm changing it is because of this extreme, oh, got hooked on it. it's got a tremendous amount of wear in here, and I think I got one that's more better. So I'll grab that and keep cleaning, and I'll bring you back when something is ready to go back together again. I guess I could even work on this out here and we could put this together. Anyway, progress is going to be made. It's just not going to be made maybe as quick as I thought, because I'm doing a lot more than I intended to. Well, Knutson, the shaft I have is for an 88. It's longer. So we'll put the original back in. That's fine. I mean, it was working. It's just a little bit sloppy, but that's how we like it sometimes. Now, the only other thing I discovered was this tractor's sin. It has a cracked block, but somebody repaired it years ago and it seems dry as can be, so that's not going to be an issue. But most of the ones you see, they have some type of crack through there from over the years, especially if it's an original block. So again, casting number M100, so it's a 77 block. But I'm going to continue my cleaning procedure here, and then in a minute we're going to bolt this back together back here out in the open, and then we can set it together after a bit. But I think I'm going to clean it up and make it more better. All right, so this happened. Yeah, figured we might as well. I mean, we're in it this far. So I think I got everything I need to put her back together. We are going to take a little detour here in a minute. I decided that we're going to switch bell housings. I had this one in the parts pile. The input shaft's slightly better, but the big reason was this. If you can see that, the carrier tube is about half gone. So that one is good, but the throwout bearing is no good. So we're going to put the old throwout bearing in this one and then have all the fun we can stand. So yeah, but we can get started with this process by putting the flywheel back on and the new hub that we're going to use, and then we should be in pretty good shape. And I guessed wrong. These are supposed to be where the bolts are slightly off, so you could either have it right or you could have it 180 off, and I think I'm 180 off. Yeah, I thought looking at it I had her right, but somewhere along the way I probably flipped it upside down. Let's try that. Look at how nice that was. And now they all line up. At some point we might have to pull it and change that rear main seal to the updated style, but today we're going to roll the dice because we need to get going. I want this to be back together and not sitting here in pieces for ever and ever. Now we gotta match up our hub the same way we did with the, and the hub actually has extra holes. Is that gonna line us up? I can't see what we're doing. I think it will. It's your top and bottom hole that will be wrong if you make the mistake. So as long as your top and bottom hole go, you should be fine. I thought I just heard a horn honk, but sure. And I'll probably put a little bit of Loctite on these just to be sure. I don't want this stuff to come loose while it's running wide open. That would not be a nice time. I've also seen tractors though where they sheared off all the bolts. Not so much on these little ones, but yeah. All right, let's let it eat, you know. These do get torqued, probably about 70 or so is what I'm gonna do. I think it's like 70 to 80, so I might do 70 something. Basically, just so they're tight, you know. You will probably notice when they come loose, if they come loose, because you will have a vibration, my friends. Huh, now, what did I do with the last one? I'm one short. Like I said, don't even be tempted to use the impact to even spin them down for a second, because I know people who have done that thinking they're just going to run it down and then finish tightening it with the torque wrench, and then they accidentally snap them off before they know what they did. Also, I don't feel that this flywheel is bad enough to really merit me doing any kind of smoothing on it. I think it'll be fine. The more we use the clutch, it might take care of itself. I'd say somebody gave this thing a clutch job in recent memory, but they just didn't get that shaft in there quite right, and that bit them in the Knudsen. Or I should say it bit Craig in the Knudsen. All right, we're gonna go with that. Let's tighten a couple of them a little bit before we go final tightening. We're gonna have to probably wedge something in there to help hold it for us, because I don't think I'll be able to just do that. And that could be a trick. We could put bolts in and do that, but boys, if we if we break one of them off, then we're gonna have that issue in our life, and we don't really want that either. But maybe if we run them a fair amount down, and then we take our big pry bar, just the weight of the pry bar might be enough to let's check our work. Now we're ready for the clutch, my friends. And we're in Fat City on that because we have a clutch alignment tool now we can use here to help us, namely the input shaft that we're not using. We can put this sucker in there like that, see? And that'll get us pretty darn close. Well, I hear Jack jacking off out there, so he's probably saying he wants a hay bale. They're about out of hay, so he's probably ready for some fresh. And if all's right with the world here, when we tighten this down, those clutch fingers should go in a little bit. Because that's how they make up for wear. They start in and then they work out as they get wore. It'd be nice if I had the camera where you could see the whole time instead of just narrating to the floor. Or drop it, you know, or drop it. Probably would be best for you to try to get them all kind of evenly and just keep going around in a circle, you know. Yep, there our fingers are starting to move, so that's a good sign. That means our clutches should be okay. We'll use it for a while before we put that picker on to make sure that everything's going to keep working for us, because that would really suck to put it in there and then have it not be usable and have to take it all back apart again. Be a lot easier to do it without the picker on. All right, we need to tighten those. Okay. Let's tighten that one. All right. That should be good to go there. And we can see we can put that right in. Now the input shaft is all the way in there instead of where it was before, which would have been about right there the whole time it was driving, and then pop. It wouldn't have taken much to get it out of there. So I would say that was probably what the failure was. Now we're going to have to switch our throwout bearing, and to do that I'm going to have I wouldn't have to have any tools if I could pull that input shaft all the way out, but it's this holder on the back sometimes keeps it where you can't. I don't know, it doesn't matter. The point is, this isn't that difficult. We'll just take this cotter pin out. Alright, there. Alright, this one's locked up, so that probably wouldn't do us much good. All we need to do, well, yeah, come to think of it, that doesn't look very good, but I think what that is part of the tube. I'm gonna full send it. Really, the only time this spins is when you got the clutch pushed down. So I'm gonna just roll the dice on it. Let's get us a new cotter pin. and then I'll put that back in and we'll bolt that on there, and then it will be ready to set back in the frame. The steering shaft is still out, and I guess what I'll do is just set it in the frame, and then I'll take the steering shaft apart, take the U-joint off the one end, because I won't be able to get it between the frame and the block. But at this point, I think that's what I'll do. Maybe I can go up from underneath and scoot it through, but I don't have that cleaned up yet, and I'd really like to get this set back in the frame before I have to leave here in a little bit. All right, so that's sitting back in there. Just need to tighten the motor mount bolts up and then start putting everything else back together on it. So I'm kind of pumped. I never did it this way before, where I just left the radiator hang with everything, but it seemed to work. So yeah, now it's just a long process of undoing everything we did, and hopefully when we're done, we will have a clutch and we will have movement. So I got that shaft in there perfect. It's all the way that it needs to be. All we have to do now is line up that. There should be a hole in the input shaft where that little pin bolt goes in on the back, and then pinch this one with that in the grooves, and we should be good. And like I said, just go through and start putting everything back together like it was. So as always, if you enjoy my videos, give them a thumbs up. Leave a comment and tell me how dumb you think I am. Or if by some slim chance you liked it, say that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.